Tequila.
Okay, let's focus because this will go on the video. Yeah. So no talking about me. Genuinely, I walked into a post box. quite forcibly. Yeah, that's what I do. Anyway, good morning everyone. It's lovely to see you all. Hi, it's Tom. Nice to see you too. XenClient versus Mirage. Did Citrix buy the wrong thing?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go. Oh, this will not translate well onto video, will it? Right, so you may remember me from such events as last night. I did an awesome session at Keep Speaking Synergy with the most excellent work of VMware. I've also presented about XenClient before, once or twice. So thanks for coming, for the people that I recognise. Thanks for being annoying to Remco. Quite proud of this. I don't know if you know, but all of the videos go online. There's a pub forum channel on YouTube where there are some excellent presentations. I am in the top three right after two, which is right after first. But 3,000 people have watched this presentation, which I was tempted just to play and sit. And go, because that seemed to work for Keith. Just play a video, let's play a video. But I'm not going to do that. I am going to talk you through, obviously if you've been in my session before, it's not the highest of technical content in terms of deep dive. We're more of an overview type of session, yeah, having fun, understanding, but learning, always learning. Is this just another smackdown? Every single time you come to an excellent event, as E2E is, you will have sessions that compare in-depth different technologies, go through every single individual feature. We're not going to do that. Which of you might actually be happy at? Yeah, that's good. All right. I was just seeing if you were finishing your presentation. It's not a smackdown. It's not a smackdown for a very simple reason. XenClient, Mirage, two very different products, but fundamentally doing the same thing. Fundamentally giving you single instance management for your environment. But they do it in a very different way. To do a product smackdown where we compare individual features would be unfair. So we're not going to do that, but we're going to position them. So at the end of this session, you'll be able to go home and make a valuable decision on whether or not you deploy XenClient or whether or not you deploy Mirage in your environment today. You all with that? Excellent. So, we're talking about deploying with Mirage. We're talking about deploying with XenClient, which are obviously about laptops. Now, I've got a laptop. In my head this worked much better, right? In my head this worked much better, but if you could get laptops out, that would be really helpful for my presentation.
Hang on. Give us a minute.
You've got laptop, yeah, and we are technical people, we know what it is we do. Oh, well, thanks Sasha for not helping at all. This is the future, and the future should have VDI. Everyone should have virtual desktops, yes, because what year are we in? 2014 is the year of VDI. 2014 is the year of DAS, yes, as 2013 was, as 2012 was, as 2011 was, and 2010, going all the way back to, well, at least 98. The thing is, I've stolen a slide. The thing is, we know as professionals that while VDI is an awesome technology, very useful, server-based computing, an awesome technology, very useful, kept my children in shoes. It does not necessarily work for all of the people, all of the time. I'm going to quote one of the best virtualization experts I know today, Mr. Chris Marks. The best picture I could possibly find, yeah? Who says most VDI implementations to date are point-based solutions, yes? You can't go into an organisation and just do VDI. Well, you can. There are some. But quite often you'll need to put in standard PCs, you'll need to put in laptops because sometimes people need to work on laptops, yes. Why? There's a variety of reasons, typically. But let's think about it. It's like resource isolation. There are still people who want to be able to utilise devices today on their desktops, but you still need to be able to manage them. Mobility is key. Come on in the room again. Marvellous. Mobility is key today. People want to be able to move around. Want to be able to work wherever it is that they need to work. There are granted a variety of devices, yes? So as I look around the room, this is more helpful. Actually, would you like to put up your device? There you go. We've got a range of devices, but what we find, and I've got them as well, right? So I've got a laptop, and I expect you're exactly the same. I have a phone. Oh, there it is, right? I have an email. We all have a range of devices, yet we still have laptops, we still have data on those because they are very useful devices. We still have organisations that have PCs, and they have PCs because the way that applications work, the way that devices plug into them, we need to be able to manage those devices, maintain those devices today.
Really?
This made a lot more sense before last night. Everyone talks about that martini moment. Yeah, anytime, any place. There we go. The difficulty with that is it's hard to be anytime, any place, anywhere. Yeah, so we have airplanes. Aeroplanes, very difficult to get a signal. Very Cat 5 cable outside of your aeroplane, dragging along as you go. Hard, right? Very difficult to be productive. And in all fairness, if you're off on a long journey, aeroplane ride, it's a very useful time to make use of writing presentations or writing content. Being able to work effectively on an aeroplane, you need a local device that you can work with sensibly. Hotels. If you wake up, Remco, pubs and that.
Did you mean if, or did you mean when?
And indeed, events. Normally, we have excellent Wi-Fi access. It's obviously some hotel issue that means that it's very difficult to work on a VDI environment, but if you've got a laptop where you can work independently, locally, on your own device, working as you would like to, very, very useful. No one wants to be that guy in Rome, yeah? No. Sean will never ever live that down, right? So, but, as the famous VDI Bill Shankly said, VDI guy, Bill Shankly, just me on that guy? Yeah. Alright, okay. Life isn't just about the desktop OS. It's more important than that. It's not just about delivering a desktop operating system to devices. Sorry, I said that and you yawned massively. This is a really important point. Because it's more than just this, is it not? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Yes.
Yes, it's about the user data, it's about the applications. We need an environment, single instance management. It's not just about delivering a desktop operating system, it's about delivering all of the other associated things. It's about ensuring that user data is backed up. It's about ensuring that the users get applications as they want, as they need. There are traditional methods of deploying desktop operating systems. Large, cumbersome, difficult. Let's try and think about it in a different way. The nice thing about VDI, the nice thing about server-based computing is single instance storage. Very little management, very easy to upgrade, very easy to deliver new applications. Let's do that a better way. Let's think about it in a better way. Yeah? Because now we have different models. Obviously, we've got bring your own device model. Yeah? I think what work gives me is rubbish. I will bring my own device. We've also got a slightly different model. CUP. Heard of that? Yes? Yep. No? So, corporately owned, I'll own the device, but I'll let you manage it in a way that you need to manage it. These are models that we, as IT professionals, need to be able to accommodate. Can't do that old-fashioned thing where you have one device and you deploy that same device to every user. That doesn't work anymore. People don't like that. You'll get environments where, if I was to give this laptop to everyone, they get annoyed by just stopping her. Right? Because your needs are different. How you work is different to how Ben works. Remco doesn't work at all, right? He has a different requirement for a laptop. How can we manage all of that?
Yeah, but that's more a corporate requirement.
How can we manage the delivery of applications? How can we make sure that it's all backed up? Yeah. So, after setting that scene for hopefully about 30 minutes, how are we getting on? No? 20 minutes, all right, never mind. Let's look at both of those technologies. XenClient. Hands up if you've actually deployed XenClient in the field. Whoa. Whoa. All right, this is interesting. Oh, well, we'll see what happens later on. So XenClient architecture. Actually, this is possibly one of the worst architecture diagrams I've ever seen in my life. Right? I don't know about you, but when I do architecture diagrams, I expect more stuff. Yeah. Right? This is a little bit rubbish. But fundamentally, there is a synchronizer component. There is a server component where you will collate the data, where you will create that image that you deploy to all of your individual instances. And there will be a XenClient engine on an individual device. So each of the PCs, your PC, not that because it's a Mac, your PC will have a component installed. Wipe out what's on and install a Type 1 hypervisor on that device. But this, rubbish in terms of architecture, let's do a proper architecture diagram. Let's properly look through all the documentation and find a proper architecture document. This isn't even very good either, but this is in the documentation. So how does that work? How do you put it in an environment? So you have your synchronized piece, and then some stuff happens. This is in their documentation, it's rubbish. This is slightly better, and I did this before I got into a... So, this is how it works. You have a synchronizer component. You have a server-based component. So here's where you will store your information, here's where you do your updates, and then you will sync it out to local devices on your local network. You can even do remote clients. So when I was doing stuff, it was for a UK government department involved in industry, so they'd be going out around the world. We could do updates from a central location, like you can do with VDI, and deliver them to remote users, regardless of where they were, in the world. There was a nice feature that came out called a synchronizer. So if I've got branch office environments, I can have my updates down to that synchronizer environment, delivering to individual users. So reducing the bandwidth requirement. There's a nice new feature in 5.11. What used to happen was you could only ever communicate from this device to this synchronizer, which sounds cool, yeah, up until this disappears. And then you could never ever communicate with something else, but as of 5.11 you can actually synchronize with all the devices. So your backups will back up where they can be stored on some sort of storage environment, which is cool. The interesting thing is though, single instance management, let's take a little snapshots. Let's work it out. You need Hyper-V in order to manage this entire environment. It's a little bit cumbersome, a little bit heavy. Yeah? But you also need a single database, but everyone needs a single database, yeah? So this is the architecture. Synchronizer, maintain all of the information, allowing you to do backups. You can have a remote synchronizer for branch office deployments. You can deliver to remote clients. You can do things like put the XenClient on a USB stick, send that out to people so that you can do self-installs. You can put the images that you create onto USB sticks. So the same USB stick can do a new install and allow users to install it locally as opposed to coming over the wire. Nice. Cool. Hardware. So when XenClient first came out, proper XenClient, before they bought Virtual Computer and deployed Netstalk, one of the difficulties for XenClient was its limited hardware environment. Yeah? 16 devices were supported. I probably have 16 devices at home, yeah? So that's not really a great enterprise solution. It's a lot better now. It's 345. So far wider. I mean, even Remco doesn't have 345 devices. So much better in the enterprise. I think this is cool. This is much better. Better for enterprises. The difficulty is how quickly can they bring out new stuff. What I did like for Nextop, what I did like for Virtual Computer was they had good communication with the likes of Dell, with the likes of HP, with the likes of Lenovo, that meant that as new hardware devices came out, that they could rapidly support and deploy XenClient to support those environments. Yeah? But this is still quite limited. So it tends to be higher end devices, tends not to be devices that would work very well in pretty sort of environments. Yeah? So great for enterprises, not so great for cope. Bring them. Oh no, I forgot what I am. A great feature of XenClient is its support for personal V-disks. Yeah, moving on. So, there's an excellent layering technology within XenClient that allows you to deploy new application environments, modify, update, send new applications down, and keep user data. That is great. They extended this by incorporating the weird arse PVD technology that allows users to install their own applications. The thing is, I don't know about you, but my experience of PVD is temperamental at best. Not the greatest of technologies, but fine for a couple of applications. One or two apps, it'll sort of work, and it'll sort of work pretty well. Lots of applications, though, if users really wanted to change the way that they were, modify their operating environment, PVD, not great. I'm sure you can fix that now that you're working for Citrix. You will do your best. We expect an update on Tuesday. So in summary, XenClient, awesome. Have deployed it, it worked, the users loved it. But do you have the requirement for secure business desktops? Do you need to really lock stuff down? What was the nice thing about XenClient, what drove me to use it when I was using it, was I could do remote management, remote wipe. I could modify and maintain and manage the actual application environment, the operating system itself, I knew was secure. Awesome. But this requirement is not a common business requirement, I think. It's a little bit niche. And for the Americans, that's niche. Just learn how to pronounce it. The interesting thing is, if you'd been in Hamburg, when I remembered when I was actually meant to do my presentation, you will have noticed that we did some testing on a Mac. We actually got, I went out and bought, I think I probably talked about this last night, went out and bought a number of USB drives to show XenClient operating and working. Generally, if you can give them back, that would be really nice, right? Because I gave them all out and never got one back. All 6 SSD drives. Have you got one?
I collected after the last session.
Did you?
Yes.
So you've got, did you give them back?
Not yet, but...
Oh,
no, he only said he collected them. You never asked.
What is very interesting, so you can't do it, the way that the Mac licensing works, you can't actually run XenClient on a Mac legally. So what Citrix did was they bought your VirtualBox, I think it was, and put the player on a Mac. Now this extends the use, hopefully, yes, synchronized to more. This extends the use case. Way above and beyond what you could do before just with that Type 1 hypervisor, because now you've got a Type 2 hypervisor. Now you can use a Mac. For the 2 people in the room, well, 2 and a bit, that have a Mac. The interesting thing is, what about Windows? Is that still single instance? I suppose it is. Maybe you don't care about the underlying operating system, maybe you don't want to manage that. You do or want to allow a co-op environment, bring your own device. Mac player, awesome. However, let's have a look. So, 1 Mac device, 2 Mac devices, 2 and a bit. Yeah. PC, weird thing. PC. There's far more people with Windows, and yet there's a wide use case for having a Windows environment. I asked the very good people at Citrix, so if you can sort that out by Wednesday, that's fine, because I know you've already got some stuff to do with PVDs. If you'd like to trial the Windows desktop player, sign up for the preview, drop these guys an email or tweet, and they will provision you as soon as it becomes available. I asked if I could do some demos, and they said, not quite ready yet, so don't expect it by Wednesday. Thursday? Thursday. All right.
Soon.
How does it work? If you were to go back and install it, what's the process? So once you've set up your synchronizer environment, effectively, you do a Windows install into a VM, capture what it is that you need, wrap that up, send them out. But every time you want to do an update, you have to open that image up again, make the changes, save it down, send it out. Cumbersome. Because it's always encapsulated in that particular VM. Can you do desktop as a service with XenClient? I tried, right? I always think that you should always look to deliver whatever it is that you're delivering as a service. You should look, regardless of the environment that you're in, to try and deliver as if you're selling it out to external people, even if you're internal in the organisation. Can you do it with XenClient? You should think, you should. I even did a presentation on this. You would think it would be easier than doing desktop as a service. We definitely get around the licensing malarkey that plagues DAS today, unless you use server-based operating systems. The difficulty is bandwidth required in order to send those images down. Difficulty is 345 device HCL. Difficulty is just the sheer volume of information that needs to be delivered down. Difficulty is dealing with individual users. If they've got limited requirements, then it's great. But if they've got complex requirements, you have to rely on PVD, and no one wants to have to rely on PVD. So, notes from the field. XenClient, great product, but a limited, I think, use case. What is interesting, for all those people that put their hands up, anyone more than this? Any implementation where you've got more than about 150, 200 users? No. Interesting, because if we consider how many laptops and PCs are out in the field, how they should be managed, how they should be maintained, surely this should be a bigger number. But it is not. I think this is because it is complex. As everyone knows, I love complexity, but I think it's just too complicated, too heavy. Unless you want that secure environment, that secure environment, in which case, awesome technology. Yes, I probably snort that. So, single instance management, yes, you can manage devices. Can you use it for can you use it for bringing your own device? Yes, with the desktop player, I think. Bear in mind though, slightly different user experience. Even though they support 345 devices, it's a Type 1 hypervisor. It will change that underlying environment. So all the clever little device drivers you get, so you get confused as to which function button you do in order to change the screen, that all changes. Wireless connectivity is a little bit different. Bandwidth can be cumbersome because you've got that large image that needs to be sent down the first time, and then obviously it's just a bit. PVD is useful for a small amount of applications, but DAS can be tricky because you've got to get that Hyper-V environment. Multi-domain, multi-tenancy is hard. With XenClient, it only supports one Active Directory domain. That said, if you want to have a look at XenClient, if you want to follow it through, you want to read some documentation on it, Doug Brown released a document showing you how you could deliver the entire infrastructure required for a XenClient environment. I got to see an early version of that, even if you're not going to deploy XenClient. Download that document, read that document. Awesome in terms of the level of detail in which he's gone to. This is how documentation should be. Read it, pursue it, actively make your documentation as good as that. Anyway, Mirage. What's Mirage? Yep, just me again. Okay, fine. So, you may notice This is better architecture diagram. Yeah, well done, VMware. But it's a very, very similar architecture to XenClient. There'll be some central data servers holding your central image that you can then deploy out to various clients. You will notice a complete lack of Hyper-V requirement. Complete lack. No VMware requirement either. So yes, they do say use a virtual desktop in order to take your initial snapshots. Just that's easy management, but there is no requirement there. And yes, we've got branch replicators to allow you to take that central image that you've got, that central image management, put it on a remote site so that you've got easy data replication, not hacking your remote locations at all. So surely this is just another virtualization technology, yes? No, very similar, same, but different. And in what way is it different? Well, we've got layers. Yes, we've got layers. But the interesting thing about the layers is we can do individual application layers like you can do in AppV, like you can do with But the really interesting thing is this driver layer. So you can deploy drivers with this technology. You can deploy individual files. You can take a snapshot of an individual application and then just deploy that application so that users can have applications that are folded into their environment like everyone would like to do with PVD, but fails to over time. This actually does work very well, and there's a user layer. So it is possible to back up user information. So with Mirage, I can deploy the agent onto your desktop, laptop device, PC. I could, if I wanted to, give you brand new applications, but I could just take a backup of your machine and then restore and validate your machine if needed be. So that for that co-op environment, for that bring your own device environment, very, very powerful technology. I can do device drivers. When I was playing with VMware Mirage, I could take an individual instance of a XP machine, snapshot that, then do a snapshot of a Windows 7 machine. So I could have a user, well not you, you're a really ridiculous example because you're on a tablet, but I could have a user running on XP.
No, this is not XP.
Yeah, XP. Well, I doubt it, well, it's probably about Windows 9, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could have, knowing you, I could have a user running on Windows XP, and in the background update that to Windows 7 when the user turns the machine off, turns it back on again, in that classic IT way, turns it off, turns it back on again. He is running Windows 7. With all of his data maintained, because it's just a layer of data. It's just a layer, but it's kept unique, and it's kept unique. I was going somewhere, I forgot where I was going. So, but is this not just like application virtualization? No. There is no virtualization in that respect, as you might understand from AppV or from Thinner. It's just an agent that's sitting on just a filter driver that's understanding all of that. The really useful thing, no hardware compatibility in this. Yeah, it's just a filter driver that installs on any Windows device. The very useful thing in terms of applications are you are utilizing the full capability of your device. Not had to stick on a hypervisor, not had to stick on a Type 1 hypervisor, not had to stick on a Type 2 hypervisor. So you've got full native performance with Mirage. So I can manage individual applications, I can restore machines, I can deploy machines, just with an agent. Very, very powerful. What's the process? Very similar process as you might remember from a slide that I had earlier. But what's really clever here, just installing applications. I can just take snapshots of individual applications and deploy those out, allow users just to take the applications that they need, and I can back up user data very easily. The really compelling thing is that I can take that technology, that VMware Mirage technology, and I can now, they didn't used to support this, but they do now, allegedly, have that syncing my virtual desktop environment with my standard application environment. So we all know that VDI has its use case, excellent use case for excellent things. But I can use Mirage to sync the application environment from my virtual desktop, potentially with my actual desktop. So I can use Mirage to manage both my virtual desktops and my local desktops. Potentially that's a very powerful thing. I've not seen this in the field, but my thought on this is that proper, let's have a virtual desktop for when I need to work offline, yeah, or online. When I need to work online, I can have a virtual desktop and I can sync it up sync it up in terms of applications, sync it up in terms of user data, and run it locally. Potentially I could do it on a Mac as well if I was one of the two people who actually had a Mac. XenClient does not do this. XenClient completely isolated. There is no linking in with XenDesktop in terms of synchronizing the actual image. Yes, by all means, you can run the XenClient to connect to a XenDesktop environment, to connect to a XenClient environment. But that single instance management is completely isolated from this. With Winova, with Mirage, potentially I can sync my VMware environments across devices, VDI devices, or physical devices too. Can I drive automation with this? Yes, actually, there's been some very neat stuff done with the Res IT store, driving automation with Winova, which is harder to do with XenClient, just because you have to create that image, manage that image in a hybrid environment. In fact, if you are rifle Dan Bridges, Dan Bridges talked about deploying Winova, Mirage, and getting rid of all of his VDI instances. Well, all. He had about 1,000 left, so he did have 6,000 users on Quest, bless him. He got rid of that, not necessarily because it was Quest. What he found was very difficult to support, bring your own device, very difficult to support, because students, he works in a university environment, they do meetings, students, don't necessarily go on aeroplanes, but they do pubs and that, yes? And he found that the VDI environment just never quite gave the performance that users were expecting. He took it all out and replaced it with Mirage. It allowed him to update desktops, give that full performance from that desktop environment, sync in where students were bringing their own devices into the environment, and manage that and maintain it in a sensible way. What is interesting is this number. 7,000 seats.
Thank you.
Is it fun? Yeah, all right, okay. You learning? Yes. Yeah, I will pick on you if you're playing on your phone. Differential imaging with data duplication. So the amount of information that he required, the infrastructure he had to put in place, far less than in that VDI environment, and yet was doing that single instance management of the entire environment, all using Mirage. And integrated with REST software. Yeah. Next. Oh, hang on. Right. So, can you do single instance management with Mirage? Yes, you can. Can you do bring your own device? Yes, because there's no hardware requirement. It's not as if you have to install a different hypervisor or anything like that. It's just an agent that installs on the machine. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the domain. I can back up your data, I can restore your data. It's a very impressive thing. From a desktop as a service point of view, you might go back to here. The way that Dan worked was to consider the entire service as a service that he was providing to users. He was utilising Mirage in order to deliver that desktop service to his individual users. So yeah, personally I haven't delivered it myself, but it seems a more conducive application environment to deliver desktop as a service. So desktops, applications, data back as a service to users. So, right back at the beginning, all the way here. Jokes, you all remember, yeah? So we just rewind all the way back. I asked, should Citrix have bought Winova instead of XenClient? I think it's a good idea for Citrix to have bought XenClient. I think it's a fantastic product in the right place at the right time. The unfortunate thing is that right place, right time is niche. And for the Americans of us, that's niche. It's pronounced niche. Niche. Yet, should they have bought Winova? I think this was a major mistake from Citrix. They should have bought that technology, and now it's in VMware's hands. If you are a Citrix customer and you want to manage your desktop environment, you want to manage your laptop environment, granted, desktop player is going to give you extra capability with XenClient, allow you to take your individual desktop OS applications data and transport that to any particular device. But it's a complicated thing to do, it's a hard thing to do, and most importantly, it's a player, yes? It's not utilising the full technology that's on your device. VMware have a capability of an application that can synchronize data from devices, regardless of VDI, or synchronize devices that are in a VDI environment. They have an entire management solution, which I think is very impressive. If I was a consultant, which I no longer am, independent consultant, I'd be aware of what that capability can do. I'd be aware of that because I think if I was talking to a customer about doing environment management, talking to a customer about mobility and managing their particular desktops, what VMware have in terms of that VDI capability and the Mirage capability is far more powerful than what Citrix can do today, given the Mirage technology. Thanks very much. Any questions? Yeah, this should have been a bigger finish. Yes, would you like again, right? So, now technology. Ta-da! Genuinely, any questions? That'll be handy.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No.
Unless your question is, Andy, can I give you all of the hard drives that you gave out in Hamburg back?
So Andy,
Yes.
Andy, what do you think the future of Mocha 5 is then? So is that going to be bought by Microsoft?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I don't see why Microsoft would need to buy Mocha 5. Is it going to drive license revenue?
No,
I don't think so.
I just thought of the conversation.
No. As a question of the conversation, something else. Actually, that's very good. So when I talked about XenClient versus Nextop versus Mocha 5, Mocha 5 have a tool that they've been touting for a long time. Hands up if you've deployed it in the field. Hands up if you've heard about it.
Yeah, heard.
All right, okay. Well done, Mocha 5. You've at least done some decent marketing. It's a niche product, I think, for Mocha 5.
How do you pronounce that?
Niche.
What is American for niche? For not
I think their management platform, the way that they allow you to manage environments, the way that they allow you to deploy the environment, the configuration controls that they have is more impressive than what's in Synchronizer and in XenClient today. Right? I think it's a better management environment, so the configuration controls that you've got, the capabilities of managing that particular environment, better. However, it is a Type 2. Their Type 1 was awful when I tried it. I haven't tried it for a couple of years, maybe it got better. But given that no one has tried it either, maybe it hasn't. They're delivering a Type 2 that allows you to manage desktops. The difficulty that they have, which is a very similar place to XenClient, is that is completely isolated from everything else. Yeah? This is the clever thing about Mirage. It allows you to sync between your VDI environment and your local environment. It allows you to use a device if you want to use a device. If you don't even want a Type 1, Type 2 hypervisor, you can manage the device again. Do I think Microsoft will buy them? No, because I don't think Microsoft have any need for that functionality. They're selling them those licenses anyway. This is a product environment that requires a different vendor, different player. Maybe someone does technology a little bit like Winova did, and then Citrix can buy them. But that technology is indeed useful. And VMware have done a good play there, I think. Again.
Do you know why Citrix decided not to support client Hyper-V? Because they already have a Hyper-V image on the synchronizer side when they create the master image. And then they convert it to be compatible to the client, which is not Hyper-V anymore. Why not just stick with the Hyper-V image?
And then utilize the function of what's in.
Yeah, because it's in the OS, it's there. It's a Type 1 hypervisor that's already out there.
Now we're talking about Type 1 hypervisors, we're talking about managing the image. And yet if we go all the way back, it's like, is that the best use of managing a completely separate environment? I used to think yes. Not so sure now.
But you do not need to destroy your client. You can just maintain your client and just activate the hypervisor role.
Right, so in any environment where you've got to manage a particular operating system, Type 1, Type 2, you've still got to do something on that, which is where I think Mirage has a functionality.
Yeah.
But it's not in all SKUs, right?
No, it's not, it's enterprise SKUs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
bring your own
correct.
typically.
And just when it's
And again, this is
that's
a difficulty. Yeah, you've got to have that SA. Well, you've got to have an agreement that allows you to put a enterprise environment that allows you to have multiple hypervisors running on an individual PC that you have in XenClient.
If you have
do not
SA,
necessarily
you're
need
fine.
with Mirage.
So do you think it has a future, XenClient?
I think XenClient has a future, a limited future for particular environments. Yes.
And if
But
they-
Citrix needs, I think, to find an application environment that allows you to manage your VDI, merge that VDI physical desktop. That they do not have to do.
If they integrate it in XenDesktop and the Hyper-V requirement is away, you think it has a better future? You can actually do single instant.
So there you're talking about if once you deploy desktop player, do you think it'll be better? No, because it's a player. It's talking about managing that.
Yeah, no, I'm
laptop
talking about
environment.
the management part. So now you have the synchronizer. If that part goes away as management, and they integrate it in, let's say, XenDesktop, as the same way you do with MCS and PVS.
Oh, all right. I see what you're saying. Or maybe I look forward to that. Or is that
I have
Thursday's
no
job for you?
inside
or Friday?
information by the way.
It's going to be a hard first week for you.
Yes.
Maybe.
It's
I'd be
what it
interested.
is.
I'd be interested to see where they're going with that. Definitely, the desktop player for Windows is going to be. Well, it's going to help Neil, who's been asking for this functionality for a long time. There are customers who want that single instance management that allows people to use remote devices.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that particular device, but it's not the same as Mirage.
No.
I think they need to take, Citrix needs to take a step back and review that. Have a similar functionality. They've gone down an avenue with post-process. So hopefully they can turn it around. Hopefully they can introduce something that allows management of customers.
But yeah, you can do the suggestion from your CTP group. You speak to those people.
I can, yes. Thanks for that. I didn't think of doing that, but now I have. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Comments? Additions? Just smiley faces. Well, it's been lovely to see you all again. Thank you so much for coming on and reminding me what I did last night, which is really helpful.